Are you still watching unsubbed? Hey, subscribe, will you? Alright, hey, welcome back, guys. This is another plugin development video. We're going to follow up exactly where we just left off in our last video, where we had created a custom post type. We had created a new function that hooked into the init of WordPress, called to our plugin admin class, and created a custom YouTube API post type. And I quickly covered this. I kind of just like speed ran through it and basically said, here's kind of like a quick view of what each of these things does. And if you want to look more in depth, you can go look at the documentation. I don't really want to focus too heavily on exactly all the arguments of creating a custom post type, because I want to get more into actually application, because imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. And a lot of times you'll get overloaded if you're like, I want to know what every single argument does. I'm not saying that's bad. That's definitely how you learn, of course, and how you make things correct. But also sometimes it's good to just get on the horse and ride a little bit, and then go ahead, get street smart, then head back and get book smart. I've done a lot of learning that way, and I've done a lot of failing that way, but a lot of successes come out of that failure for sure. So anyway, back to what we're going to get into this time, which is we're actually going to create some posts using this new WP10 vids post type. We're going to grab some metadata, and then we're going to import that into the database, and then I'm going to show you some examples of calling it out real quick, because this is going to lay the foundation for us being able to go to the front end. Because by the time we're done, guys, you're actually building a actual YouTube API importer plugin. I hope you understand that. And then also beyond that, I have a lot of other cool stuff I want to do with it, a lot of other cool plugins I want to build, but we're just going to start right here. All right. So once again, as you know, in the WordPress Boilerplate plugin, when you have a public and an admin side, especially the admin side, and you have menu items, the menu item calls to a callback, and in that callback, we call to a partial. Okay, I keep saying this is similar to Laravel's Blade platform, which it is. If you've worked with Laravel at all, you'll know that this is really, really similar. And anyway, the one that we're calling is this page right here. Now, as you can see, it says, YouTube API importer, use this section to import YouTube API videos, blah, blah, blah. We wrote this and created this Jumbotron. We also put it under just the settings. I really should put it under importer, because I have some settings I was going to create for this plugin for like how the user wants to display them, and shortcodes and whatnot. Anyway, let's just get right into it. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of these boxes I just quickly styled up in the video where I was showing examples of how to quickly output the data. And we're going to go ahead and create a post for each one of these videos, and then we're going to display some information from it. So to get started, we're actually going to do that inside the partials page, and down here you're going to see that I showed this code in one of the previous videos for calling YouTube's API. You need your key, you need your channel ID, and then I called to a JSON decode, and I called in the YouTube videos for motor trend. I keep saying I'm like a big fan of roadkill and all that, so I went ahead and pulled that in. And then we're going to create a for each loop to go through each of the videos we call back. And in this case, if you look down in here, we called 5 videos as our max results. Now you can call as many as you want. We called 5. And I'm actually going to down to 1 because I want to show you a better example of creating that. And then you ask, where is it getting the channel and API key? Well, I showed you how to create settings boxes, save them as options, and so it's getting these options real time. Okay, so what we want to do is just get rid of all this garbage that we had originally set in there. And we're going to go ahead and create a new comment section. We're going to say loop through the videos and add them as custom post types. This laptop, I have a hard time on this keyboard. Okay, now why would we save them as custom post types? Well, because if we call them from a custom post type, we are not using the API. This means we won't hit our cap. Okay, and then what we can do is we can run periodic updates on our database or in our channel, or if we have a YouTube channel or want to display from somebody's YouTube channel, and we can display them from local database versus always calling to YouTube's API to retrieve them, thus hitting our data cap. And the more users you have, the faster you'll hit the cap, etc. And we don't want that. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to save it locally, and then we're going to output it locally, and that's going to save you a lot of time. Okay, so first things first. The original code that we were using for this, it's doing a lot of it already, which is, like I said, getting the YouTube channel API and bringing it into here and then letting us go through the videos. So the first thing we need to do, and I'm actually going to try to write this. I hope it doesn't make this video super long, but we're actually going to do, the last video I just posted it, and I kind of wanted to actually show a little bit of writing some stuff. All right. So in this one, we're going to say insert a new post video. All right. So what we need to do is we need to create a data array for inserting this into the WordPress database. As you know, we can just open up an array. Oh, and the reason why I screw up a lot on this keyboard is because my desktop has an ergonomic keyboard that kind of split in the middle, and my laptop is normal, and I'm recording on a laptop. So I'm not used to this keyboard. So the first thing it's going to require from us is a post title. This is obviously self-explanatory. This is the title for the post. Now here's the thing. We have many variables that we can grab from YouTube in order to write what we want here. And so what we're actually going to do is set the video's title as our post title. And the way we do that is like this. We grab item, as you see above, we're looping through the video list items as item right here in our for each loop, so we access it via item. And then in the class, and the next thing we need is snippet. That's the next piece we need to call to. And then beyond that, we can call title. And that is grabbing the video's title, and it's using it as our post title. Then we're going to say the next thing that it wants from us is going to be a post. I'm pretty sure it's a description. And so what it wants, it actually calls it post content. All right. And what we're going to do here is exactly the same thing as above, which is we're going to grab this and put it here, and we're going to say description, because that's how YouTube calls this description. Okay, and the next thing is category. Now, I don't necessarily think we're going to use a category for this particular. We could if you wanted to call it any specific way, but I'm not going to do that. And actually, you can create custom taxonomies with this and do multiples by creating an array and using the post method. And in this case, we're just going to say general. I think that's what it's called, right? Or uncategorized, I think is what it's called. All right, perfect. And that's what we need there. All right, the next one it wants is I actually screwed that up. It's actually post category. Okay, there we go. Now it's going to work. It would have thrown an error on us before. All right, and so the next one we're looking at is tags. And I'm not really going to use any tags either. This one's not called post tags. It's actually called tags input. And I'm not really too interested in using tags either, but you could include this one as an array also like this. We're just going to include an empty array that doesn't exist, which is it's not going to be a big deal. But we don't have any tags. But if you wanted tags, you can now make a tags array up here and just have it, or outside the loop, and then just have it inserted there for your tags. And then post status. In this particular case, we're going to call this one published, but as you know, there are many different types of post status you could do. You could do preview, draft, etc., all those kind of things. But in this case, we're just going to go for publish, actually, rather. So I get confused myself when I'm even talking. Okay, typing at the same time. All right, and then the last thing, this is the most important part of this, is the post type. Now, as you recall, we created a custom post type inside of our admin section, and we registered it as WP10YVids. Whatever you called your custom post type when you registered, this is where you need it here. The reason we're doing it this way is because we can cycle through these in the database later when we're outputting them, and we can call them specifically. All right, so right there, that's creating our data array for this new post. This is creating a new post, but we have plenty more to do. So now what we're going to do is we're going to insert this into the database. Here's the important part of this. We need to retrieve the ID. Okay, it's vitally important that we retrieve the ID. Okay, and I actually found a really cool little snippet of code on Stack Overflow for this, for being able to retrieve the ID as you create the post, which is pretty cool. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to label a new variable result, and we're going to say result equals, this is going to be important in a second for why we're doing this, WP insert post. Okay, this is calling to the WP insert post function, and we're going to do, guess what, the data array that we just created above. So it's going to insert the post with all that information. And now here's what's going to happen. we're going to create a new check to see if to get us the post ID, because when we add metadata to this post real time as we're looping through the YouTube array, we need to have the post ID that we just created in order to add the YouTube information as metadata that we can then call later. So in order to do that, we're going to say capture the ID of the post. And it's just like this. We're going to run a quick check statement. If the result does not contain a WordPress error. Okay, and we're calling again to result. Okay, if it exists and it doesn't have a WordPress error, what we're going to do here is we're going to just grab the post ID. So in this case, we're going to call it the new post ID, and we're going to say we want result. Believe it or not, that's that. Okay, and it's checked for the new post ID. Now, inside of capturing the post ID, now that we have a post ID, we can start adding metadata. Okay, and we'll actually do it inside of here. Add the YouTube metadata. Now, as you recall, we're still inside of the overall for each loop with all of our inner checks. Okay, we're still nested in here, so we still have access to item. Okay, that's what's very important here, and we needed the ID for this. So, in order to add a post metadata to this post, you go add post meta. Okay, and here is your IntelliPrompt telling you all the things that you can add to it. In our particular case, and we could do this also, I think, as a multi-array, but I think in this case I want to show you each thing. So the post ID, remember when I said this is vitally important? Actually, let me check the time and see how long this video is going. All right, we're at 12 minutes. That's not bad. I wanted to make it as short as possible. I didn't want to hold this up forever. All right. So the post ID is right here. We grabbed it as we created it. All right. And then the meta key. This is the key you're creating in the database that we can call to for this particular item later. Okay. This is also vitally important. And you want to make sure this is unique as well. In our particular case, we're going to call the first one video ID. And then this is the unique Boolean. I don't need that for this particular example. The meta value. Now this is the value we're inserting into this new post metadata under a new key, which is video ID. And this is part of our snippets. Okay, I told you that there's lots of YouTube snippets that you can access when you request it through the JSON decode. And this particular one is exactly video ID. Okay, so we just added the video ID from YouTube as a post meta, as a new post meta for this post's ID. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create like 5 or 6 of these, and we're going to change these. So the second one is we want to do published at, because this was when the video was published on YouTube. This is going to allow you to sort them by their publish date, because we want to grab all the data we can. Don't be shy about getting as much data as you can from YouTube. The next one that we want is the channel ID that this posted to. This is also important. And as you can tell, this is actually pretty simple. I'm naming them the same thing that they come as from YouTube, so we don't get confused. The channel ID. The next one is the title. And we already have this above, but I'm going to save it twice. I don't even care if it's redundant in this particular case. The description. And you know what? To not cross over onto... actually, never mind. Sorry, I screwed that up. Actually, to not cross over into our built-in stuff, I'm going to call this Y title and Y description. That might be better for our particular case. And the next thing we want is the thumbnails that come from YouTube. There's a medium resolution and a high resolution, and we want to save those. It actually gives you the URL of those images, and we want both of those URLs. So what we're going to do is we're going to call this image res med. And then we're going to call this next one image res high. And these names are, I'm just naming these keys so I can call them later. We actually have, you can name these whatever you want. Okay, and then the snippet call for the URL. Okay, now we're running this on an import, okay? And I know that every time the page gets refreshed, it's going to continue to make a new post, new post, new post. I understand that, but I just want to show you guys what it's actually doing. So as you can see, we are now looping through the videos. And also, I'm going to change the video to 1, okay? So now it's only doing one video at a time, and in this particular case, it's only going to get the most recent video from YouTube because that's how I asked it to do it, order by date. So it's going to grab the most recent, which is going to be this Mario Andretti GP. It's going to grab this right here. And we're going to create the array for inserting a new post. We're going to give it the title of the YouTube title, the content of the YouTube description, uncategorized as our category, no tags, publish. We want it to be published and accessible, and then post type WP10Y vids. We're going to result it by inserting the post with that data, and then capturing it, and then checking to make sure it exists and that there's no error, in which case when we know that, it's going to give us the ID. Then we're going to add post metas to those IDs. Now, one final thing I would like to do here is inside of this, I'm going to show you an example. So here's what we're going to do. Actually, we're going to do this inside the loop since it's only going to loop one time. Here's what I would like to show you, and we'll get rid of this test code later. We're going to do a quick output the medium res image. Okay, now what you're going to see is that this is calling it from our database now. It's not calling it from YouTube's API. The image src, we're going to just echo out a tag. Equals, open up the bracket, concatenate, and we're going to say get post meta. Looky here. And what we want to do is we want to grab this post ID, since we're still on it, and the key. And what do you think our key is? It's going to be image med. I think I didn't grab the first opening. Yeah. Okay. And then the Boolean we do not need in this case. Then that was for a single. And actually, never mind. We do need that in this case. Yeah, we do. Because I actually want to call that true. And that's because I want it to return just the data. I don't want it to return it as an array of multiple items. So I actually do want that as true. Okay. And then we're going to concatenate again. And we're going to close it. And then we're going to close it. Okay. So now it's going to call the new post image from our database. It's not going to be calling it from YouTube anymore. All right, let's go take a look and see what happens. All right, my bad. I had dollar signs instead of @ signs. I don't know what and ampersands. I just hit the wrong keys. All right, now we'll go ahead and go hit it. Well, it didn't show, and I think I know why. Back over here, I forgot to add these to our YouTube. I forgot that it's actually the way the snippet calls. It just calls for thumbnails and then calls for the for the resolution, and I screwed that up by being an idiot and just trying to copy my same name over to left and right. Like I said, I was talking and then I was coding at the same time, and then I just wrote in the wrong stuff. So anyway, let's go ahead and do it again. Okay, so nothing happened again. That was just me being an idiot. Upon one more further inspection of me just blanking out. Look, I had named it results, and this one I was calling to was result. Okay. Here we go. Third time's a charm, eh? Okay. Now we're in the right spot. I don't want to echo this. That was just me doing a little bit of track hunting to be able to figure out where I was at. Okay. So we're creating a bunch of posts, I understand, that are the same thing. But here it is. Okay, so now this image is no longer calling from YouTube's API. It's calling from YouTube where it's being hosted, but it's not via an API call. It is now just a standard image call. Okay? So we now have this data accessible within our database. We can now do anything we want with this data because we have the post ID. So now we have it all working, and this video went a lot longer than I wanted it to, but let's just do a very, very, very short recap. Okay, so we were able to have the YouTube API calls from our last videos, do a for each loop through the video, create a new post with the title as the title and the description as the content, put it under our new post type that we just created in the last video. Result is our data being inserted as a post, and then if result does not have an error, we want the new post ID to equal the return of the result, and then we want to add post meta, which has all of the YouTube snippets to custom post metas, and then we're able to call that post meta and output it. Now, it doesn't always have to happen right here. Obviously, we would now go through in our next videos, and we're going to be cycling through via getting posts and looping them, and guess how we get the post? It asks for the type of post. Well, guess what type we give it? And then we're able to loop through our videos. And say you want to sort them by publish stat dates. You want to sort them by anything you want. That's why we have all these variables I called in from YouTube, and I'm saving them all so we can do what we want with them. Anyway, as I said at the beginning, look, if you're not subscribed, subscribe, will you? And in the next videos, we're going to go ahead and actually start out putting this on the front end. We'll probably register a short code to do it so we can do it wherever we want. And then maybe give the user an option to say if they want them to have borders, or if they want them to, you know, I don't know. I just want to make it so that we have a nice, well-rounded YouTube plugin and something that's really simple. Anyway, that's going to conclude this video. Sorry that it ran a little bit longer than 10 minutes. I think double, in fact. But I appreciate you watching very much. Like and comment and subscribe, will you? And I'll see you in the next video.